Okay, so yesterday, I think I ended off with talking about how I really wanted to get that tank out of my office, and, or at least it was mentioned at some point in the video. It's kind of been a focus for a few days, but yesterday I said something directly about that, I think, and I ended up manifesting it, so I was all excited. Some guy sent me a message, I think it was shortly after I did the video and all that stuff, and he was asking some questions about it, and then said, I mean, this is like 4 o'clock when he sent me a message, and he's like, I won't be able to get there until like 5:30 or 6. Is that too late? It's like, nope. Just get it out of here. I'm happy. And I had it posted for 75 with the tank and the supplies that I had for it. And when he was here, he said, I'm just going to give you 80. He said, you're going above and beyond, because I threw in a couple other heat lamps that I remembered that I had. And apparently, he and his buddy, he was getting a corn snake, and his buddy was getting a bearded dragon soon. So it's like, hey, have extra stuff. And you can be able to make that work. So he gave me $80 for it when I had it down for 75. So that was kind of fun. And it got the tank out of here, so I'm really excited about that. Yes. There's been, like, I feel like there's a lot that I want to talk about, and then at the same time, it's like, I don't know how, where to go, what to talk about specifically, any of that fun stuff. Big thing, it's like, keep going back to that needing to let go of the stuff that wasn't working out, right? Like the fixations on the past, and I have no problem saying that needs to happen. I feel like I'm about to the point where I can. I've talked about like the bear picture, and like now I'm more focused on the good aspects. Like, what does this mean that I was finally able to put my picture in for this contest, and then it ended up winning. So it's like, what does that mean for me now, and for what's coming for my life? And good things. I feel very optimistic and encouraged about everything that's going on. I pulled a bunch of cards last night, and I keep talking about like all these big cats that keep coming up. And I got the Black Panther with No Expectations, and Tiger with Claim Your Power again. So yeah. All this big cat energy. Oh, and birds, especially birds of prey, are important. And then I got 2 cards with falcons on them, and then I got hawk and an owl. So that was fun. Like, I pulled these cards, and I was just all excited by them, and then like they all went together, and like, okay, which one did I have? I had the hawk. Okay, so the hawk also has a crown up in there by the bee, and the falcon has a crown because it's the victory card, right? But then also it has a bee. And I pulled this other card that also had a bee. Well, it talks about it as a bee. It doesn't really look like it as a bee in that picture per se. But okay, so this one also has snakes. And then going back to this other one has a snake. And, big focus was just trusting. That was a big thing. So, so I also pulled the Just Trust card. But just like all the overlapping points on them, it was like, oh, we're tying things together in a big way now. This one, less so for pulling it and seeing it myself, but it's frequently occurring in like card readings that I watch online. The horse, that's been like a big one that keeps coming up now too. It was like, there's always the big cat cards, and Birds of prey, birds of prey, less so on the cards, but, showing up in other places as well. And just, I got my freaking skeleton owl up there. I got some owls on my shelf over there. You can't see real well. They're everywhere. But they just, yeah. I feel like there's so much going on here lately, and I don't really know how to organize my thoughts around it. And I think that's a big part. I know that's a big part of why I'm like into writing, and that's been a means of organizing my thoughts and putting things together and making some of these bigger connections. But it's like there's so much going on that anytime I go to talk about something, then I feel like I get overwhelmed with just the amount of things that are happening. Yeah. But I set this intention back in April that before something big happens, I would see my birth date like 7983 in the wild somewhere. And the other day, the escape wasn't working and it had to go into the shop. So I was borrowing my dad's truck, and by the time I made it to the railroad tracks down the road from our house, the end of the odometer reading was 798.3. It's like, of course. It's like, okay, so what's happening, right? And then like there's been dreams, and there's been little weird things that have come up in life. And I don't even know where to start on any of that. But I know it's getting kind of exciting because I feel like things are actually really starting to shift in my life, and like we might be, like I've talked about before how just my sister-in-law saying that I would be welcome to go with them if they were to relocate is like just her putting this idea out there. It's like it expanded my ability to dream big, right? Because like before it's like, how am I ever going to get out of here? And then it's like, ooh, now there's a possibility of something that could happen. It's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Go back to this no expectations card, right? It's like just being able to dream bigger and see things from a different perspective that I wouldn't have been able to consider beforehand. Just I've said many times, it's like dreaming big was not something that I was encouraged to do. I wasn't supposed to expand beyond what the family situation wanted for me. And now it's like I feel like I'm like there's all these things that are all these moving pieces that are coming together, and it's like I don't know what to do with any of this, but it's really exciting to have possibilities now. And yeah, so then I manifested this getting rid of this tank, and that made me really happy. And yeah, well, what else? I feel like one of the biggest things for me has been learning to trust myself, right? And that's never been something that I've been good at. And second guessing myself that constantly, but I feel like it's time to start opening up with things that I feel pretty confident about. Like I've talked on here a lot of about the twin flame stuff and knowing who this person is, right? So it's like with as many details as I have that have made me feel pretty confident. I mean, not. I can't even say pretty confident. I feel like I know who it is, right? And because this name has followed me my entire life, this birthday's followed me my entire life too. Didn't realize it was what it was until I figured out who he was and who he was to me specifically. But just that connection, then I then I realized that tombstone I was always drawn to at the cemetery, that the guy that was born the same year my brother was, but the stone was kind of a weird shape, and then like I was always drawn to it, and I thought it was because he was born the same year my brother was. But then I later realized that the day he died was Twin Flame's birthday. So it's like, well, that's a whole new layer of this thing following me around now, right? And so I feel like there's a whole lot of that going on, and a whole lot of I'm supposed to trust myself. This has been like everything that's been coming together has been to show me that I can trust myself. And it's like, I've never been good at that. Always had the tendency to second guess myself and, back down for various reasons. And I feel like I'm at a point where it's time to not do that stuff anymore. And it's time to start believing in, let's go back to the inner truth card. You will know the answer, and it will come from within. And you will know it when you need to know it. It's like, that's basically everything I've been doing lately. Is trying to get me to trust myself and to trust that it is safe to believe what I feel the universe has been leading me to for all this time, right? Yeah, and that twin flame piece, it's like the whole fact that I even started this channel to begin with was because I figured out who he was, but how was he going to find me, right? It's like he had to be in some kind of spotlight so I could find him, but how would he ever find me if I wasn't doing anything? It's like, well, that's a valid point. So then, like, the start of it was a whole lot of talk therapy and purging things from my system that I don't need to hold on to anymore. And I guess there's been a lot going on astrologically speaking. I think the Twin Flames 1111 page was talking about how basically stuff that is connected to childhood is being pushed to be released at this point in time. And then I really feel like that was the whole thing with that incident the other day with, okay, my bear picture, and then like within a half hour, my parents had me all aggravated, and then I cried all day over this thing. And I feel like the whole day, just that all the emotions that I was going through on that, following this thing that was like a really good thing. I won this contest, and that was really cool, and I've never done that before. It's like that whole day was I feel like a devoted attempt to release the heavy energies that I've been carrying around for so long. And I've returned to that point many times, but I feel like I'm at a point where it's time to let it go and keep pushing forward and stop getting pulled back into dramas that aren't really relevant anymore. Because I'm not the same person that I was whenever most of those things came up. This whole learning to use my voice and doing so on freaking YouTube has been a whole thing in and of itself. And like I said, it's like that would not, it wouldn't have ever come up had it not been for me finding out who this guy was. But also with that, that only came up when I turned my love and career lives over to the universe to direct. And it's like, I see all of these things of how I set intentions along the way for the stuff that's going on now. But I didn't, like, really believe it. It's like, okay, I went to church for quite a while and would focus on certain things. Like, okay, I've talked about that Jabez prayer many times, and, you know, yeah, just different things that I've prayed for over the years. And of course, I always felt like there was like one specific person that I was meant to find in my lifetime. And I let everything else talk me out of that. But it's like, okay, I knew early on that he was going to have brown hair, brown eyes, right? And yet the one person that I dated that I thought, that, well, I had myself convinced that I was going to marry him, ended up having like dark blonde hair and blue eyes. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really fit that whole thing. And for that matter, the only one that had blue eyes that I've ever dated or whatever. But, well, went out with one guy for a couple times. That actually was kind of funny because that guy was the one, he was the son of the house pastor of the place I was living in my senior year at Ball State. And there was this one day, it's like he was giving me a hug, and I remember thinking, okay, God, this is okay, but if this is not what's meant for my life, then I don't want it. Take it away. And really soon after that, it was like some kind of dramatic chaos. And showed that very much was not not good for my path and not where it was supposed to be in my lifetime, right? And even to the point where, you know, this guy's friends made it a habit of like texting me. You know, one of them found out my number and then like made a habit of texting me and saying like really shitty stuff. And it's like, the fuck? It's like, I got to a point where I kind of hated dudes that year. It's like, yeah, screw all y'all. And it was over this one guy. But it was funny because it's like I set the intention. It's like, all right, if this isn't what's for me, then I don't want it. I don't want to just waste my time for someone that's not going to not turn out for anything useful, worthwhile, long term. I don't know. But it's like, I remember setting that intention. I remember that was the year I got, like, before that happened, I was really into these books by Eric and Leslie Ludy. When God Writes Your Love Story and When God Writes Your Life Story. It's like, hey, that sounds kind of cool. Let's do that, right? So then, you know, I'm just thinking, like, at that point in time, I was just thinking really shallowly focused. And I'm seeing how it's like the universe is coming together, pulling these things together for me that, like, I never would have been able to dream big. That wasn't it. I set the intentions out there, you know, and prayed for things that honestly I didn't believe were possible, to some degree. Like, some of it is just, sounds good, but wasn't really fully trusting that God could handle it that way, I guess. And so I feel like that's a big part of why I am where I am now, and learning to trust myself and to allow myself to sound crazy. I mean, like, I feel like, okay, I've talked on here before about there are some things that I feel like I've been collecting all this information, but it's like there were things that were kind of sit in the machine kind of as placeholders, but then at the right time when I got the right piece of information, it's like this whole line of things shifted into where it's supposed to be, and then it's like all these things started making sense. It's like, wait, what do I do with that? Like talking about, okay, the video I watched in 2020, Gem Goddess did a reading, and one of the things she said was she pulled this card that said black dog, and it said black dogs are important and mean it's about time. It's like, okay, well, that's obviously relevant because this is the only time in my life I've ever had black dogs, and I have 3 that are primarily black. It's like, that's new for me, right? But since 2013, that's what I've had, because I got Ziva in 2013, and then the other 2 got in 2017. And it was in the time that I was with my ex, which is kind of funny now that I think back on it, because it's like they were in a way protecting my energy from him specifically. And like when we got Ziva, she was supposed to be his because the Kelpie, for whatever reason, was his dream dog. He had one with his ex before me, and because of that, he claimed that was his dog, even though he only had one picture to show for their time together, whatever. So it's like, okay, whatever. So, hold on, I don't know what that was. Okay, so my dad was messing with something out there. It sounded like the wall was caving in. Anyway, so black dogs, right? So then I have these 3 black dogs. Okay, my ex and I went after Ziva because she was at a rescue in Tennessee and we were in Indiana. And they had 2, it was her and her sister, and we went down there. And we got her because he said she was just like perfectly marked, because it's like her eyebrows match all the markings were like very symmetrical and all this stuff. And it's like, that was the perfect dog. Well, that little perfect dog, which I agree, sat in my lap on the way home, and she was like my dog from there on. And I feel like she would have been okay with him had he not been a dick, but she was meant to be mine. She basically was my, she's the earth sign puppy. So she's the grounded Capricorn energy. And then, so that, like, she used to sit on my lap anytime he was in the room. It's like she never trusted him. She'd always just kind of glared at him and watched him, whatever he did. And so she's very protective of me, right? And then, there was another dog that we weren't able to keep. But then after we were down in Alabama and situated, eventually it's like, we got to get her a friend. And then I got put on this waiting list for Taz with the rescue, and we were like 4th, I think, on the list. And so I wasn't entirely sure how that was going to work out, but I figured at least one of them was a vet that also had a farm or something, so I figured that was probably going to be his best bet, but it ended up not working out. But since we were on a waiting list, we kept looking, and we ended up, or he ended up finding Gidget. She was a 12-week-old puppy that people like 10 minutes down the road from where we were at had. She was the last one. She was 12 weeks old, and she was the breed because I was looking at comparable breeds for, since we had Ziva, so something that could keep up with her. And this bird. Yeah, so she was Australian Shepherd Blue Heeler mix, and so it was in the breed range that I was thinking about. And then, oh Buddha, makes it real hard to think. Till you whistle back. Anyway, so Gidget was the last puppy that they had, and it was one of those that they had wanted their dog to be a mom one time before they got her fixed. It's like, whatever. It's what it is. It was the last one, 12-week-old puppy. She was good and ready to go to her new home. We took Ziva, and, you know, they got along right away, and yeah. So then it's like, well, what's going to happen if we end up coming up on this list for the rescue? It's like, are we going and he's like, well, we'll just have 3 dogs then. It's like, I had also set this idea, thought through at one point in time. It's like, how many dogs is, okay, like what a good number for dogs is, right? I know this sounds silly, but it's like, if you have 1 dog and something happens to it, then it's like really hard, and then it feels like a replacement when you're going to get another one. If you have 2 dogs and something happens to one of them, then even the dog is mourning as hard as the people are. It's like, but if you have 3 dogs, then everybody gets their time to mourn before you feel the need to bring another member into the pack. And oh, Buddha. Yeah, so that was my logic on why I thought 3 was a good number for dogs. But that was also in the consideration of having like a partnership in dealing with the dogs as well. It's like, once that crumbled, it's like, that's a whole lot of dog to give attention to when it's just me. Because like, one's so obsessed with the ball, and you know, the others, they all have their things. But you know, there were various reasons why I ended up with what I did, and kind of manifested it. It just took a little time before it came together that way. And it's like, I never really considered the black dogs as a thing. It's like, I've never cared about like breeds so much as I just preferred rescues. Because like my little rat terrier, it's like the ones that have had a rough start, that you get to take them in and show them that not all people are bad and whatnot. It's like, they're the ones that are most grateful for a home. You know, and Taz is like that in a lot of ways. There's like, he's experienced the not being wanted part, so he's even more grateful for the being wanted part. And you know, Doogie was the same way, and we had another dog, Rocky, that was pretty much the same way. Holly was a rescue, but she was a puppy when we got her from the rescue, so she didn't know any different. Yeah. But, you know, it's like, I've had these dogs for a while, right? And then after I got my divorce, and, you know, we're up back in Indy in the situation we're in now, and trying to heal the old stuff, right? Then I watched this video, this tarot reading on YouTube, and she makes the comment about black dogs are important to me. It's about time. And it's like, about time for what? And, yeah. And then I started taking the classes at Inner Path, and, Lenita made the comment about black as a shielding, grounding, and protective color, and there's also rocks that you can use to for those things as well. And she said one of the things she does first with new students was to check in with their guides and see what they specifically needed help on. She said, grounding, shielding, protecting my energy. That was the big thing, and that my clairsentience is good, but I needed to work on the claircognizance, and it was mainly trusting myself. And she said a part of that was in protecting my energy, so like establishing boundaries and drawing lines on what was mine versus what's not mine to take on. And I've always had the tendency to take on other people's stuff, and I didn't realize like there was a whole thing that was going on with this until I started like studying into it. She's talked about the frequency of color and also the rocks. So there was that. But then the next week, when I went to Annie's class, and she made the comment about she associates black with source because all things come from nothing. It's like, well, and now if we're putting all these pieces together, then that means at a time I wasn't able to take care of myself energetically, the divine basically lined me up with the situation where I have dogs that were there serving this purpose because, I didn't have my rocks or anything back then. It was just the dogs. And it's like, at a time that I didn't know that was even a thing I needed to consider, I had these dogs. It's like, that's kind of cool. It's like, that means there's everything's so much more intentional, and there's a purpose to everything that's going on that, I could talk myself out of it before. It's like there have been moments where I like have been really confident in this and like really into the idea of magic and things coming together just right and all that stuff, right? But I was like always able to talk myself out of it. And it's like, well, why was that the case? Because it's clearly been something that I keep returning to throughout my life. But then that goes to the boundaries thing. So it's like, this is why I have to protect my energy from everybody else that I'm around, because otherwise I pick up everybody else's junk and don't know what's mine and can't stay focused on the magic and all that stuff. It's like, I think the divine wants me to focus on the magic a little more and to, go back to this no expectations thing. Dream big, but not get fixated on how it comes together. This is the first time I've done a video with anybody that close and not been freaking out about it the whole time. It's like, it's not ideal. My heater has kicked off and there's nothing else going on sound-wise. So, yeah. But, like, just seeing, like, different things that I've prayed for in the past and how things, it's like it wasn't just forgotten. Like, I might have forgot about it, but whatever, God, the divine source, universe, whatever you want to call it, it's like, it was always, it's like, it took the information and were kind of lining me up with everything else that I'd been praying for along the way, and now it's just seeing seeing things start to come together. It's like, I feel like some of it took a long time to get here, but then there are certain things that it's like, and now like the freaking tank, like I manifested that in a short span of time, really. I think it was just an offhand remark yesterday about I really hope to get this tank out of here soon, so I have that space back, and then it's gone now, and like this freaking desk that I love, yeah, it manifested that in like 2 weeks. And it was funny because I had the idea that at some point I wanted to do a new desk, but it wasn't something that I was focused on at that point in time. I don't even remember how it came up, but there was like one day I was sitting on the window seat over at my grandparents' house, and everybody was there, and I think it was something to look at because I wasn't really focused on anything else at that point in time, doing anything else. So it's kind of like not quite doom scrolling, but just paying attention to stuff that I might not have thought about otherwise. Ended up on the marketplace, and I think a desk popped up. It's like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. And then I accidentally asked if it was still interested. It's like, I didn't mean to do that. But just the fact that I started the conversation, it's like, all right, well, since it came up now, then maybe I'll do something with it, right? And hi. Okay, so yeah, so like it accidentally came up. I accidentally clicked on something that was posted. It's like, well, it was a nice desk, but that's not really what I was going for. But it started me looking around because, well, I mean, it popped up. So now other suggestions are being put in front of me. And it's like, all right, what would I want in a desk? It's like, always really liked the corner desks, and I really liked the hutch, right? And I found one that was in caramel, and it was, it had like different colors. Like I think the desk itself was cherry, and then the other part had something else to it. But I liked how it looked together. It's like, that's pretty cool, actually. But then the thing was, it's like, okay, caramel, they got all sorts of stupid roundabouts up there that's not real easy to go through. And it's like, I don't think I want to try to take a big-ass desk like that through that area with all those roundabouts, having it on the trailer. And I feel like that's a good way to either get sick or lose something, just because, God, there's so many of them. But yeah, but I like sent the lady a message anyway, just in case, and she never ended up, or she didn't say anything back to me. I was like, I don't think that one was on Facebook. That one was on a different, like a classifieds thing. I forget what it's called. Hey, quit licking the floor. Yeah, but let me throw this Cara to Tez. Hey, there. Okay. Yeah. So Taz is eating the carrots like Bugs Bunny. Anyway, so there was the desk in caramel. It's like, I really liked it. It was $200. It's like, that's not bad, but the roundabouts wasn't big on that idea. But then I never heard from him anyway, and so I was like, whatever. Well, then I happened to find a similar desk that was more local. I found one that was just the desk for like $50. I found some that had the desk and the hutch. There was one that was a different color version of it. There's a bunch of different things that came together. Most of them were asking like $200. I think one of them had stairs to move it down. It's like, I don't want any part of that. It's just like you're moving it on your own or whatever. It's like, yeah, that doesn't sound fun. So, yeah, so at one point when I was looking, it's like, it would be really cool if I could find one for free, but I know that's not really realistic or whatever. And I kept going and I found one. It was in like Greenwood for like $200. It's like, all right. So I sent the lady a message that I was interested. And mind you, just like a couple weeks beforehand, I wasn't looking at all. And then it's like everything came together just so. And it's like, then I found this desk that I absolutely loved. And it's like, the right color and all this stuff. It's like most of the ones I saw were like this cherry wood color, which is my go-to. But the one that I asked about, the lady said that she had somebody interested in it already, and they were supposed to pick it up that day. But before she responded, I happened to find one that was in like Connorsville or something, so that's like a little over an hour away or something. But straight shot over there. It's like, okay. And it was free because they wanted the space in their house back because they had 5 kids and wanted to, have another bedroom for the kids. It's like, sweet. So I basically manifested this desk for free in 2 weeks. But then the tank came up last night and it's like, yes, and that one's even shorter notice. So it's like I'm starting to get the hang of like these different things that are coming together, and it's like really fun to watch how quickly things are coming together on that end. Yeah, but there's like a whole lot of, I don't know. Like I pulled these other cards yesterday, and trust and support were big ones. And also imagination, dream big. Trust the universe, ask for help when you need it. It's like, it's coming together. It's like, I feel like everything's kind of finally coming together. But I have to stop getting so distracted by the crap that doesn't really matter anymore. It's like, yes, this was something that you had to go through to get stronger and, learn the lessons to get there. But it's just a step on the path. It's not the whole path. Don't get stuck. And that's the one thing that's like kind of hard to remember, I think, at times. Yeah. But it's kind of fun to see how everything is. I mean, especially since I've been focusing on this stuff like more and more, and keeping my energy protected from the dense stuff and making sure that I do, if I spend time with family, for instance, make sure to salt myself in the shower and clear that out of my energy field, because I don't need it. And it's just that dense stuff just sticks. It's like crap. So yeah, but it's like, it's literally that easy to clear it. Just take a shower and, throw some salt in there and we're good. Yeah. But like, I feel like I need to, I think the demonstrating that I'm trusting the things that don't really necessarily make sense is kind of a big part of it too. Like, I got this little Grim Reaper skeleton thing. Giving the thumbs up, says stay positive. And that's what I looked at. And just now it's like all this stuff. It's like, do the things you're supposed to. Don't get fixated on the outcome. And just trust that it's going to go where it's meant to and when it's meant to. That's like a big thing, right? That's basically my life in a nutshell. Learning to trust and to follow the guidance that I feel pretty confident is guidance. Yeah. And then you know, and sometimes it comes through with like the numbers. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like there's like so much going on that I'm being given the opportunity to prove that I trust the universe on it, or has got my back on it, and it's like it's not failed me at all on this whole journey, right? And it's like I don't even know. Had a message a little bit ago. Oh, it's 2:22. That's fun. If I come by, she will go with me to get the kid. That's fine. We'll figure that out. It's not time to do that yet. But soon. Yeah. It's like I feel like the using my voice piece is like especially important, and the taking the initiative to say the things that probably sound crazy, but as a means of showing that I'm trusting the universe and that I do believe it. And like there's a whole reason why I believe things. Like yeah. I feel like I'm going to start giving the information more about like who he is and how I know who he is to me. Not all the details, not all at once, but I feel like it's an important piece of this journey and getting me to trust and also allowing the universe the space to prove that you can know things. You know, everybody wants to say, okay, you have the people out there that say, oh, God told me. And it's like, well, based on what? It's like, well, I feel like there's a lot of information that I have that has been continuously supported, you know? So, we're going to start here. His name is Rick, right? So this name has followed me literally my entire life, okay? And, you know, I'm thinking my cousin, who was my best friend growing up, her dad had a version of it. So, okay, Rick, Ricky, Richard. Her dad went by Dick. It's like, I don't like that one. You know, and I remember thinking at that at some point along the lines, like, I don't want somebody that goes by that. That's, ugh, no. I get it's a generational thing, but no, not a fan. You know, but then my mom babysat this kid named Ricky, and his dad's name was Rick. And then I was really into the I Love Lucy show with Ricky Ricardo and Little Ricky. And then the guy I dated in high school, his little brother's name was Richard. And I always, like, that was a big thing. It's like, that seems like a really big name for this kid to not have any nicknames, right? But I remember thinking that, and it's like just one of those things. It's like this is a little pin in the moment that you're going to return back to this somewhere along the line, and it will be important and it will be relevant, and you'll figure it out later. You know, but I always, like, I don't even remember hardly ever speaking to that kid because it was just, I don't know, but I remembered thinking that that seems like an awfully grown-up name for this kid to not have any nicknames. And then, you know, so I dated his brother like 4 years, and that was one of those things. It was like, I knew he wasn't the one, you know, but it's like at the same time, it was safer. Like, I tried breaking up with him like 3 times and wasn't able to commit to it. And I think part of it was I needed his energy in my life at a time that, you know, like all the other energies around me were still pretty erratic, but his was like fairly level, not all over the place like I was used to. So it's like there were people that I needed in that time frame, and he was one of those. So, you know, but then I go to college, and I started going to this Bible study that was connected with Campus Crusade for Christ. And they had little Bible studies in the dorms. So I started going and met some other people. And there's one girl named Christine, and she was married to a Marine named Rick. And it's like every time she would say his name, it's like, why do I feel this swoony feeling? It's like, what is it about that name? You know, I remember thinking, what is it about that name? But then at the same time, it's like, okay, well, like, I have no reason to have any kind of connection to it. But every time she said his name, it was just like, the swoony feeling. So, yeah, and she talked about him a lot. You know, and then there was when I did break up with the first boyfriend, and now it's 2:22 on that clock. Let's see if I can. I don't think so. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so first boyfriend and I broke up, and it was my sophomore year, and he starts dating a girl in my dorm. She's on the 3rd floor of my hall. It's like, oh, great. And we ended up, she had sent me a message before he and I broke up, like she was trying to be friendly and everything. And then it's like, once we broke up, then there were moments when I tried to, like, I would send her a message and be all pissed off about the situation. It's like how quickly he got into a relationship after that and everything. It's like, the fuck, you know, and just be, you know, I'd start bitching at her about it. And the next thing I know was like, we would just be talking, and it's like, she ended up being like one of my really good friends. But it was this whole awkward situation because she was dating my ex-boyfriend, and it always started because I wanted to be mad at her, but then I couldn't be mad at her because I really liked her. It's like, damn it, you know. And then her brother was also in the same dorm, and his name was Richard as well. It's like I thought I didn't really have a crush on that Richard, but I talked myself into thinking that I did, just because it was the name. And it's like, what is with this name, right? That it keeps following me everywhere. So, yeah. Okay, so then what was the next one? Oh, the next boyfriend that I had, it was after undergrad, and I was out for a little bit. He was the one that didn't match anything that I had known about what I was looking for, you know, whoever the one was, right? But, you know, the basically blonde-haired, blue-eyed boyfriend was Nick. It's like, that's obviously not the same name, but it's awfully close, and it does, kind of rhymes there. So it's like, you know, and in hindsight, it's like, I thought that was the one I was going to marry. I did, and then, you know, it was like I needed that piece of it to hold on to think that there was any kind of shot of that coming back, even though, you know, universe made sure it wrapped up on the official, you know, the date that we officially decided we were together, 4 years to that date. And we ended up breaking up. And it's like, the universe, if I would have been paying attention to it, it's like, this is complete. This is not happening anymore. There's nothing else here. But I had to hold on to it long enough so that when things were going to shit with my ex, then I would remember back to the situation where I had somebody in my life at one point who was not a total dick that, you know, like all the stuff my ex was saying about me and, you know, I didn't deserve or whatever. It's like, you know, I had somebody that treated me a lot better than this. So clearly this is something with the person, you know, and it's like that. He said some shitty things, and I believe some shitty things about me, but it's like I still had the other thing that I was holding on to as a means to help me get out of this thing that I knew was not a good thing, you know. And then I spent a lot of time in his legal paperwork and all sorts of shit with his custody case, and this one did not occur to me right away, but his son's older brother's name was Richard, and his dad was also a Richard. And it's like, oh, I spent years combing through all of this paperwork trying to piece things together for this custody battle to have, you know, mindful of my P's and Q's, whatever that that whole thing is. It's like, and this name was right there. It's like it's been dancing around me my entire life. And I was busy looking at other things, and at times it would catch my attention and be like, there's something there, and I know there's something there, but I don't know what it is. So I, rather than trying to say, universe, what the hell is this all about? That eventually, that would be my method, my method now, but back then that wasn't what I was doing. But this name has been following me around literally my entire life, and with different ways it's come across. And there's also like music and stuff, like songs that have kind of been the same way, where they've just been following me. And it's like, there's something to that, and when I made the twin flame connection, and then I would go walk my dogs around the cemetery, and then there's like this whole line where it's like, there's a Richard, there's a Rick, there's a Ricky, and that's like, the hell, and then that day at the cemetery for my grandpa's funeral, it's like I ended up where their gravestone is, they bought their plots years ago, and he's had the tombstone on it for forever, but where that is, of course we had to, all the family was pallbearers for this funeral, so, which is good because there were a lot of people there otherwise anyway. But it's like we get the casket out of the hearse, and then, we're turning to walk it over to where we put it on the thing. And the first thing, like where we parked, like it's right on this little row where all these names are. And the first thing I see when I look up is there's a Rick, there's a Ricky, and there's several Richards. And we turn the other way, it's like there's a Richard, and then I end up sitting down because it's like there's 2 rows of chairs, and like the family was really weird about not sitting in them. It's like, what the hell? Come on, there's chairs. I'm going to sit on the chair, right? So, open it up to the opportunity, so if anybody else wants to sit down, it's not awkward, they're not the first one to do it. So that was kind of a thing. But then, like, where I ended up sitting, it's like when I looked over, that was like another name. It's like, and they're all different stones, like around this little section. It's like, obviously it's a fairly common name, but it's like hounding me. It's like they're everywhere. And like I have a freaking quote on my wall that, it's on this poster that says, "You're never given a dream without also being given the power to make it come true. You will have to work for it, however." And that's Richard Bach. I don't know who that is, but it's like, there's that name again. I put that. I have, it's just got like a bunch of different things I pulled from Facebook, and it's like, I really like these and really want to keep them in my space and remember them. So I put them on a poster, and, it's on my wall. And, I did that like years ago, like back when I first moved back. So there's like 2019, 2020 range. I put these posters together. I have a couple of them like that. It's like just quotes. But yeah, that one is right there staring at me. And it keeps popping up in other places too. And it's just crazy shit. But yeah, I feel like I said, I'm at the point where it's time to start putting myself on the line, making myself potentially sound crazy, but then, eventually, okay, so if I start doing these things and letting this information out there and why I am so firmly set on believing it, it's like, eventually, okay, for the time being, I mean, who am I, right? Nobody knows who I am. It's kind of irrelevant. So if you happen to find my stuff and be interested in what I'm talking about, then, okay, maybe there's a reason for it, right? So I feel like as I am more trusting on letting go of some of that information and letting the universe take it where it's supposed to. Okay, so a couple years from now, if this stuff can, you can trace back to me having said this stuff before, but then like the actual person is in my life, then, oh, well, maybe she knew something. How did she know it then? So, I'm kind of at that point. It's like, and I feel like that's the big thing right now, is starting to speak my truth and own the weird shit that I am confident in and believing in, and giving examples of why I'm so confident of it or set on believing it. And then, whenever it's meant to go somewhere and do something, then it will be out there. And, as I'm at the point now, it's like when I first started this whole YouTube thing, it's like, I didn't want to say anything about the twin flames, even though that's literally the only reason I started the channel, was because I was able to find him, but how would he be able to find me? And then, so then I started doing this thing, and it was terrifying. And then, just the starting it was enough that completely blew my ideas of who I was or was allowed or capable of being in the world. It's like that just blew that out of the water. It's like, oh, now you've done this thing that's a lot bigger than anything you would have thought possible before. So, then I had to, when I had to take a step back and kind of let that sink in, that this is new identity stuff, then I deleted everything that I had posted. And then I was really disappointed that I did when I went back to it. But at the same time, it's like I was so panicked in that moment that I couldn't just leave it all there to do anything while I wasn't seeing it do anything. So I deleted them all. And then once I started it back up, and it's like, well, now I feel like these need to be back up. So I posted them back up. I mean, now I'm in the 120s. Maybe 130 at this point. So obviously deleting them would not be in my favor. So I think now it's just the time to start slipping the information in and letting the universe do whatever it is going to, the no expectations thing, and okay. This one too, Destiny Path. This is the Animal Apothecary deck that I talk about frequently. Destiny Path. Of course, I went right to it. I have that habit here lately too. Okay, so this card speaks of initiating the fulfillment of destiny through transmutation. Receiving this card means you are on the correct path, being led to supreme success. It's confirmation that your destiny is in the works, even if current circumstances are contrary to your heart's deepest wishes. You have a profound purpose that is beyond your current understanding, but is what every cell in your body has yearned to self-actualize. Even your limiting beliefs cannot stop the unfolding of your greatest potential. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll probably read more of it if I can get to that. There we go. Turn the page. Okay, King Snake is the ultimate transmuter. He's non-venomous, yet can eat poisonous snakes often bigger than himself. This teaches about your ability to transmute a toxic situation into your greatest asset. The bees in this image represent the gifts you have within that are of the utmost service to humanity. Bees are a gift to humanity as they pollinate 80% of crops we eat. Your purpose is also a gift of service to humanity. Above and below the king snake, we see the image of the all-seeing eye guarding and guiding you. There's a force that created you that has been facilitating your growth this entire time. That's this whole thing, right? Lastly, connecting it all together is the Latin term omnia unus est, which translates to all is one, everything is connected. You need to knock it off. There's a mystery beyond your comprehension, aligning you with what you were born to share. Every moment you have encountered was meant to bring you exactly where you are now. Ultimate self-actualization is your destiny. You are on the correct path. Because, like, this one has been coming up a lot this year. A lot of these cards have, because I love this deck. But, like, some of the biggest ones, just trust and no expectations. And you already know. Focus on the big picture. Let the universe work out the rest. Victory is yours. Tame and attain. That's the whole bit of not talking myself out of everything. It's no, what's the book say on that one? I gotta get ready to wrap this up so I can go. Oops, not there. I can almost. Okay, your willpower will be strengthened, so it will be tested, so you must strengthen it. Sacrifice is required. Forces medicine asks you to start with the small things to build your willpower muscle. Stop yourself from saying a hurtful thing about someone. Resist eating the entire bag of chips. Watch something uplifting instead of watching garbage TV. You may feel resentful of the restrictions at first, but it will lead to an expansion of extraordinary capabilities. With dedication, the ego will soften, align with your willpower. Once you have given adequate time to building your willpower, it will become a superior force. Horse's medicine requests that you tame the inner appetites to become the person you are meant to be. And then go back to that claim your power thing, right? Yeah, anyway, I got to get out of here so I can go pick up this kid. And I guess I'm picking up my mom and my aunt on the way, too, so we can all go pick up the kid again. She had a 2-hour delay today, so it's a little late of a start, and yeah, hadn't quite gone like I thought it would, but here I am getting a video in, so yeah. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.